Hey guys, welcome back to How to Roll Dice. I'm Josh, and today I wanted to quickly touch on board game storage. And by that I mean the fact that you don't have to stick with the storage options that come in the box of a game. You can actually modify that. You can make it quite a bit better in some cases. Now, some boxes, or I should say some companies, put a great deal of effort into designing the layout of the box such to make sure that the storage of the components of the game is very well maintained. You can basically store the game however you choose, whether it be flat, standing up on its side, whatever you like. Now, some people will get around a lack of this storage by simply keeping their games on a shelf stacked. And by stacked, I mean, here's one board game, here's another board game, and they basically just do this. And sometimes they'll do this as high as 5 or 6 games on top of each other. And that's really not a good idea. Now, when I say that's not a good idea, I mean that's a terrible idea. You're likely going to very quickly diminish the sort of quality and the structure of the box of the lower game or two in that stack, because these boxes are basically just cardboard. They're reinforced fairly well in some cases, but for the most part, they're just cardboard, and they're not meant to have all of that additional weight pressing down against one of the most sort of like flexible sections of the box, which is the middle top. Even if you're storing boxes that are very similar in dimensions so that their edges all line up, you're still adding a ton of weight to that bottom box that it wasn't designed to hold. You can try to rearrange boxes so that you minimize the weight on the bottom box by maybe stacking from biggest to smallest and sort of like balance things out that way, but it's generally just not a good idea. You shouldn't do this with anything of value that isn't meant to be compressed. You would never stack vinyl records vertically like that. You would never stack comic books vertically like that, or at least I hope you wouldn't. And you really shouldn't do it with games, which means you're going to want to keep your games on their side like this, like I have all of mine on the shelves behind me. Problem is, if you do this with a box that does not have a good storage system built into it, what you end up with is a giant mess. Now, the sort of go-to way of resolving this, and is actually included with most board games, is plastic baggies. And that's great and all, but it's not really functional when it comes to setting a game up or cleaning a game up in a timely manner. Usually you're talking about dozens, or in some cases almost hundreds of difference of tokens when you're looking at a game like A Feast for Odin. And to get those all back into their individually organized baggies, and then sometimes putting baggies within bigger baggies to sort of like bulk organize categories, that can just be a big mess. And it's not always straightforward to come back to a game that you haven't played in a while and look at all those baggies and try to remember, okay, these go with this, and these we need to open now, but those we don't need to open until later, and we can put these off to the side because those are for a 3-player game and we have 5 players. It's easier to have everything in a much nicer layout and a much nicer sort of organized fashion. So games like Parks by Keymaster Games actually have come quite a ways as far as built-in organization goes. The inside of this box is so nice it gives me heart palpitations. It's absolutely lovely. I would recommend you buy this game purely for the design of the inside of the box. It is so well sort of like laid out and stores the game so neatly and perfectly. I've never quite seen anything like it. On the other hand, we have something like this game here, Terraforming Mars. Now, oddly enough, this is the 4th highest rated board game of all time, according to BoardGameGeek.com. However, it has 0 game organization inside of it. When I say 0, the inside of this box is absolutely that. It's the inside of an empty box. Here's the rule book, okay? Here's the board. And then the inside of the box is just an empty box. You can see everything just laying down there at the bottom. There is no organization. It is straight up an empty box. You just sort of lay all of the cards inside of the box, right? And this is what you get when you do that. And then everything else is just in a bunch of baggies, right? That is 0 organization. This is just a cardboard box. It's a cardboard box with some nice labels on it, but it's an empty cardboard box. That is the opposite of any type of organization. That is a pure lack of organization. So what you can do is you can go out and buy yourself something like this, right? This is usually what's called a bead organizer. And these can be found at any craft store. I go to a local Michael's, but you could also go to one of many of the sort of regional craft stores that exist in most places. Hobby Lobby is another one. Joann's Fabrics is another one. And inside of these, you've basically just got a bunch of different little sections. And in some, like this one here, you can actually modify the size of those sections by putting in these little spacers to actually make them bigger or smaller. But what you've got here is perfect for board game organization, because maybe short of the cards, which maybe you could put those inside of a deck box or something you would usually use for a trading card game, you can take all of these lovely cardboard hex tokens and these sort of metallic looking cubes and these different transparent colored cubes, and you can put them all into a nice little section in this box, making it much easier to store, pick up, and put away, as well as set up when you want to play the game. Also, you can sort of use the tray as a having like a double use, right? You can pull it out of the box and actually play out of that tray. Now, that might not be the best use for a game like Terraforming Mars, where each player has their own individual beads sort of in their own pile in front of them. But if you're talking about a game like Caverna, for example, where there's sort of a large array of different tokens that players all need to have access to, but you still want to keep nice and organized during gameplay, you're talking about vegetables, you're talking about grains, you're talking about different types of ore and wood, and all of that needs to be organized but accessible to all players. Having a tray like that in the box that stores it but also doubles as sort of a play tool is great, because then it's doing both jobs. It's working double duty for you. And a tray like this costs something like $5. So when you're talking about a $50, $60, $80, $100 board game, tossing in a $5 component to drastically improve both the manner in which that game is stored, but also in some cases the manner in which it is played, is easily worth it. I would highly recommend that you give one of those a try for any game that you find to be a little more annoying with the way that it's laid out. It will drastically improve the enjoyment that you get from playing that game simply by removing the obstacle of this clutter every time you open the box up or put the box away, and it will allow you to properly store your shelves on a shelf, or sorry, properly store your games on a shelf like the one behind me without risking having all of your components end up in a massive pile in the bottom of the box, and you'll get away from all of those pesky plastic bags. Hope you guys are having a good day. Hope you've enjoyed this little bit of input that I've offered for you. If you have, go down below, subscribe, set your notification bell to all so that I know you like what you're seeing. Leave a comment, we can talk. Maybe you've got some different ideas for how to organize your boxes. Maybe you're perfectly fine with this and you're just kind of like a traditionalist or a minimalist and you like everything to just be in a pile in your box. That's weird. I'm not sure we'd get along, but I feel like I'd like to talk to you about it. Leave a like or a dislike, depending on how you felt about the video, and I will see you tomorrow. Have a good one.